Sports shape lives, build communities, and drive billion-dollar industries, yet their true impact often goes unnoticed.
From personal growth and well being to career potential, it's time to rethink what sports can do. This is the Why Not Sports podcast. Welcome to the Why Not Sports podcast, a podcast where we dive into the business and community side of sports. Today, we are honored to welcome Mark Toyama.
Mark Toyama helps lead Fox Sports Supports, spearheading community initiatives and nonprofit partnerships that leverage the power of sports to drive positive societal change. From expanding the Game Changer Fund at marquee events like the Super Bowl to collaborating with organizations such as Good Sports and the Boys and Girls Clubs, Mark brings a strategic vision and passion for connecting fans, athletes, and communities through philanthropic work.
Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're super honored to have you, Mark. And as we always start, our first question is going to be what's your sports story?
Yeah, my sports story, I don't think it's like anything too special. I mean, I was involved in sports my whole life, multiple different ones, all the youth leagues, soccer, baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse. And I ended up in high school doing track and field. I was a pole vaulter for all 4 years and was pretty good at that quickly. It was like a meteoric rise. It was like I got really good really quickly, and I was training with a UCLA head coach at the time, and it was awesome. And so I had this like it was that or lacrosse at the time. I was pretty good at lacrosse, and I was back and forth between, where am I going to stick here? And the UCLA head coach was, I had the head coach of a college like training me, and he's like, "You are good at this, and you need to stick with it." So I listened, and I went ahead with that, but being 5'7" and like 135 pounds in high school, who would have known is not the most conducive makeup for a pole vaulter. So while I adapted really quickly and like shot up, I kind of plateaued. Uh, and I did like, I mean, it was great. I loved it, but I didn't take on like the meteoric, ultimate career that I thought I would have. But it's worked out. I mean, because just being in sports for so long led me to see really like all about the world of sports. And ultimately the takeaway for me is that like at the youth level and the non-professional level, it's sports is not about winning and losing in the end. It's everything else that goes into it. It's the camaraderie, it's the dedication, the training, the teamwork, the ups and downs, right? The journey that, and what it does for those who participate in sports, whether it's physically, socially, emotionally, mentally, all the above. And that's, I think, really what has, stuck with me and why I think I'm lucky to work in the field now.
Absolutely. And kind of what was how did you get to Fox Sports Sports? And then we can go into what Fox Sports Sports actually is.
Yeah, so I had always been involved in philanthropic endeavors in, as early as high school and college. It was really focused on a more of like a mentoring program that I started in high school and then brought with me to college, and really thought that I'd end up in the nonprofit space one day and start my own nonprofit organization and work there. But so I really had this passion for working with others and giving back to the communities in which I lived. And so, I sidebar for a little while. That was just a passion on the side. And then I moved overseas for a couple years, pursuing just a desire to explore my Japanese heritage after college. So I was living in Japan for a couple years. And then when I moved back to the States, funny enough, I got a job with Fox Sports because of an internship that I had at Fox during college. One of my coworkers at the time, back when I was in college, ended up transitioning into production to launch the FS1 network, which is one of our on-air,
Yeah.
cable sports networks. So, full circle, that was probably I think like 7 years after I'd had the internship. I, came
Wow.
back to the States, and relationships are important, as I'm sure people have told you guys a lot, but I just kept in touch with that team. And yeah, I ended up interviewing. I was interested in production, got that job, and then, I'm in sports, right? And I'm thinking about what's important to me, and that, kind of doing my own volunteering and philanthropic work on the side. And then started to think about, like, well, what is what is this company that I'm working for doing, in the communities through the lens of sports. And quite honestly, I just got very lucky. And when I started asking internally about that, the position that I now occupy as director of community partnerships was being vacated, and I was able to throw my name into the hat
Yeah,
uh, to interview and apply for this position, which I ended up getting. So 7 years later, here I am. It's been 10 years at Fox Sports, and seven going. This is my seventh year spearheading all of our community initiative. So fate had something to do with that, some luck involved, but really, I think, when I was applying internally, like the passion for the work and the vision that I had for what we could and should be doing as a company in the community really helped propel that along.
absolutely. And Mark, for you as a person, why do you think you fit that so much? Why are you so passionate about service? Why are you so passionate about the community service?
It's a great question. I think it has to go back to like my upbringing and my parents. Really had us from a young age volunteering, doing, making meals at homeless shelters, delivering like food aid and packages into the community, care supplies, volunteering our time with actually some like Special Olympics organizations, right? Like through the lens of sports there too. Now I realized that was earlier on thing, but yeah, I they definitely instilled that, and I think I was very, lucky to have such a supportive upbringing and family, and my brothers are great. But then, have feeling so fulfilled by everything, I wanted to make sure that like others could live the same way and could feel the same way, and so, yeah, I think it was just sort of a young age, and was able to translate that later on in life.
So, kind of being involved in the philanthropic space for so long now, in your current role for 7 years, what are some lessons that you learned about leadership and empathy in the space that would surprise people?
Nice. Great question. So, I mean, from my side of things, right? Like I'm corporate social responsibility, right? It's the partner to the nonprofit space that works in sports. How are we furthering the efforts of our nonprofit partners and the organizations that are, the experts in the space that are leading the work on the ground? But, some insights I think like, might surprise people, especially about leadership and empathy. I mean, those aren't like I guess empathy specifically is not something that you would learn or be stressed in your MBA, right? In your education when you're talking about corporate leadership. Um, but those, and maybe this isn't as surprising as I think, but those who work in sports understand inherently the power that sports have. And I feel like it's been really fluid, like to do the work that we want to be doing and to get others involved. uh these efforts have been very fluid, and I think the part within the sports landscape is because those who work in sports understand to some extent all the benefits that they have. And so when you talk about how do we better society and people using sports, like empathy, I think there's that shared understanding, and people therefore more empathetic towards, the mission that we're trying to accomplish or the initiative at hand. And I think I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good people that work in sports, and it's been, a pleasure getting to do this work and getting to lead these efforts for Fox Sports.
Absolutely, Mark. And can you tell us a little bit more about what Fox Sports Supports is, right? Like, as someone who might not know exactly what you guys do, like, how would you brag on it a little bit? Like, tell the viewer, like, what you guys do.
For sure. So Fox Sports Supports is the social impact arm of Fox Sports, which is a national sports media company. And so everything that we do, that Fox Sports does in the community, nationally and in our local office communities in LA, New York, and Charlotte, North Carolina, falls and is directed within Fox Sports Supports. And so Fox Sports Supports, we, really seek to answer the question of how can we, as a company, as a brand, harness the power of sports for positive social change and further the efforts that we further the efforts of our partners, our nonprofit partners across the country, that they're making on the ground, the efforts that we want to have in our communities and in communities across the country, again through the lens of sports. But it's built on three pillars. So you have the pillars of play, inspiration, and opportunity, and that's how we define all of our partnerships and all the work that we're doing and the impact that we want to have through the lens of play, sports, equipment, infrastructure, um, community based programming, adaptive sports, like creating that access to sports and play. Um, then we're talking about, inspiration and the inherent qualities of, think about coaches who, how much inspiration they can provide to their young athletes or old athletes, right? Like they're not just coaches, they're also mentors. So we look at that lens, and how do we further the efforts in that space? And then opportunity, right? Like, how do you create a better life for yourself through sports, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, socially? Careers in sports, like within sports media, right? There's not a lot of opportunity that people know about. So we try to open doors and educate people on careers that they can have within the sports industry.
Absolutely. And how do you guys decide which nonprofit organizations or community groups to partner with? What do those conversations typically look like?
Yeah, they're extensive and they're relentless. We get a lot of inquiries and requests for partnership, and it's honestly, I'd say this is one of the most challenging aspects of my job is having to say no a lot to requests for support or partnership. So how we do that, I'll backtrack and then we'll go through kind of how this works is, first and foremost, they have to satisfy the criteria as a nonprofit organization, or like a K through 12 school, right? An education, uh, like system, right? So be in one of those two areas. That's a check, easy checkbox. But then you need to be in good standing financially, and your reporting, into your finances and how these organizations are using the funding that they're receiving. They need to be, in good standing from a PR perspective, right? Like no bad press about them, like their founders can't be embroiled in some lawsuit or something like that. So there's a number of resources, and if those who are interested in philanthropic endeavors, right? You have Candid, Better Business Bureau, Charity Navigator. I look at the W-9s of these these nonprofits as well to analyze kind of where their spending goes and all that stuff. So those are good resources that's part of it to make sure that they're in good standing as official nonprofit organizations, um, or schools. And then we have a criteria internally that we talked about: play, inspiration, and opportunity. They have to align with our pillars somewhere within there, um, so that we, as a brand who focuses on using sports uh, for positive social change, can further their impact. It has to align with the brand, and that's important. So those are what those pillars help establish, and then, then it's a big, discussion internally with our team. It's what are the opportunities for partners, um, where are they, and how can we best serve them. Part of it is, we don't have official, we have 9 official nonprofit partners across the country, but that's in LA, New York, and Charlotte specifically. We work with other organizations, not in an official partner capacity, but like for the Super Bowl, right? That's a big event. We have, a partnership with Boys and Girls Clubs, but that's like on a national scale. So, and you can work in one-off ways. So there's a lot of, it's like, in what capacity are we going to support this organization? Where are we going to support them? And how much bandwidth do we have to support them? Because you know there are um, there are so many incredible causes and organizations out there doing God's work, but it's hard for us. We can't support all of them, and no professional sports team, no brand, right, can do that for everyone. And that's just tough because you want to be able to help, but you have to be strategic in how you um, decide where that assistance is going to go and how the partnership is going to play out.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a very thorough process. Could you walk us through one kind of success story that you've had from a certain initiative, whether it relates to the Game Changer Fund or the Restore Play initiatives?
Well, I mean, Restore Play was an initiative that was launched. It came in part because of in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So in 2020, when everything starts getting shut down, right, schools and after school programs and sports, youth sports programming, like all that went out, went on pause, and kids didn't have access to sports and play, just period, right? Like there was no PE, there was no recess, there was no youth sports programming. And so we had been working with Good Sports, is one of the nonprofit organizations that we partner with. Um, and this was a something that we had this partnership together. They brought to us. They said, "Hey, Mark, we are creating an initiative to attempt to reach kids across the country, providing a goal of $15 million in sports equipment and athletic accessories to help keep kids engaged in sports and play during the pandemic." And what that entailed, and ultimately, we as a big mouthpiece for the initiative and getting the goods into people's hands across the country, were able to reach the $15 million in donated equipment mark, reaching over 600,000 kids across the country in 48 states. Part of that looked like, we had almost 30,000 what we called play packs that were packaged, uh, like backpacks essentially of sports and athletic equipment that kids could use at home, how to use it, how to stay fit, how to stay engaged. And within that, like from success from my standpoint specifically, right? Like Big Poppy uh, is a Fox Sports personality. David Ortiz, for any of your
Yes, of
listeners
course.
who aren't familiar, yeah. But my job is like, I think about all of Fox Sports's resources. It's not just money. It's never just about the money for us. Our primary focus, honestly, is like our biggest resource is our megaphone, and we can reach 100 million viewers in a single weekend. So how can we uplift these partners who don't have the visibility or can't tell their stories as well? And we have, professional storytellers across the country, and this audience, right? So that is a major thing for us. So we came on as a big media partner, and we were just integrating that everywhere, right? But then also it's how do we get our people involved, our employees, our talent, and so Big Poppy, I Good Sports was based in Boston, and I'm just thinking about these things. Like Poppy has all the connections to Boston,
Yeah.
and he has his own like sports equipment line. And I approached him and his team and said, "Look, we're doing this initiative. We're trying to keep kids engaged in sports and play, and would love for you to support this vocally in Boston, and if you are willing, like to provide your own free equipment, baseball equipment, to these like baseball youth orgs around the country that were shut down." So he was all on board for that. He couldn't physically like show up to greet the kids, but he recorded this like really special message to the youth in Boston that we were able to play for them when they were being delivered um, their play packs, and they were over the moon. Big Poppy was happy. So from success, like on my end, it looks a little bit different. Externally, you meet these goals for the initiative, but internally that was a creative way to tie in different parts of our organization, our people, and our brand to show up for the community in a unique way.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, especially important given that money obviously is a limited resource. Kind of being able to be creative within philanthropy and kind of maximize kind of all of your resources is definitely very important. Do you have any other examples of ways that you've tried to get fans to become active participants rather than passive observers in Fox Sports Support's efforts?
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you asked because there's one. It's probably our, I mean, and most recent major initiative tied to the 2023 Women's World Cup 2 summers ago. We, together with Common Goal, which is one of our, there are a specific partner to our World Cup coverage, all about using soccer for social change. Um, we connected the dots between Naomi Girma, U.S. Women's National Team defender, now plays for Chelsea, just signed a record contract. But she and Common Goal had been working together on an idea for a mental health initiative. Common Goal and Fox Sports had been working together since 2017, 2018, and they approached us and said, "Look, we have this mental health initiative that Naomi has an idea for. Do you guys want to be involved?" And we together were, we said, of course, like this is an incredible opportunity. Like mental health within sports is such a great vehicle to address issues that youth and any people that are involved in sports are dealing with. Um, like I said at the beginning, like sports are not about like the wins and losses when you're a younger age, right? It's all the benefits that come from it, and this mental health opportunity to prioritize mental well-being alongside physical fitness was one of was this idea that we felt really strongly about. So we have these three components, right? Fox Sports is the English language broadcaster for the World Cup in America. You have the one of the stars, if not like the biggest star on the women's national team, who has a very personal connection to this mental health initiative that wants to start it, who has come alongside a Fox Sports supports nonprofit partner in Common Goal to make it happen. And so together we rolled this out. You know, success, how to get people involved, right? Like we timed it to the launch of the Women's World Cup and the start of that. So you had like the audience, right? Everyone's watching. It's like the world's biggest sporting event. So you have all these eyes. We launch it, it rolls well. It gets pretty much a viral launch of the initiative, reaching like for almost 5 billion people globally, nearly $10 million in earned media coverage. But the idea is that it was tied so neatly into this the moment, right? Like the people that are involved, the audience that loves this game, and the need for what this initiative is, and opening up to getting people involved and behind it. Really, the idea being that we used some of the women's national team players besides Naomi, Sophia Smith as one of the forwards, and Sofia Huerta as one of the defenders. They volunteered their time to tell their mental health and wellness journeys on Fox Sports' air. We produced a documentary series about their struggles and those paralleling those of youth in society. But the idea being that like no matter what level of play in this game and your involvement in the game, everybody struggles with things from time to time. So we opened that up and made it like a call to action, like joining the U.S. Women's National Team to fight and
Mhm.
support mental health and well-being in soccer just as much as you prioritize your training and your dribbling and your juggling and all those, your cardio, right? And that it ended up being Common Goal's biggest, most successful, like crowd-sourced fundraising campaign, just for like that time when we were advertising it during the Women's World Cup. But now we're on to doing these mental health trainings across the country with players and coaches nationwide. But from a engagement standpoint, yeah, I think when you can tie the knot or connect the dots between the audience, a cause that is universal, and like a platform as big as the World Cup, right? That was a match made in heaven for us, and we're really fortunate that we had great partners in Common Goal to execute it, and an incredible visionary in Naomi to bring this to us.
Absolutely. And how about like other major events that you guys are a part of? I mean, Fox just hosted the Super Bowl like how do you tap into that spotlight, for the maximum community benefit, maybe in the local area, right? I don't know if you guys did something in New Orleans, but
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, for us, right, like Fox Sports supports and this work, these major marquee brand moments are, crown jewels for us, right? And we want to use these opportunities to highlight and tell the stories of the impact in these communities, and what is happening through the lens of that sport or that city where it's being held, and how we are furthering that. Like that's just an opportunity that over time now I've been, and our team has been really pushing to utilize this spotlight, like you said, um, so that people know what's happening, how they can get involved, and why, that kind of thing. And so it's been a lot of advocating. That is, how do we tap into that? Is just relentless internal, you know, telling the executive leadership like why it's important, what we can be doing, how we're gonna do it, um, and how you can like designing creative and like impactful programs that are unique to the community's needs where say the Super Bowl in New Orleans was held. Um, so or or using like I mentioned kind of like involving different parts of the Fox Sports brand, whether it's talent or senior leadership like our CEO Eric Shanks grew up in the Boys and Girls Club. So now when we created the Game Changer Fund uh, to benefit nonprofit partners in our Super Bowl host cities, we connected we connected the fund to Boys and Girls Clubs of America because we have as a company, because of our leadership, have a very deep connection to that organization, and a lot of our talent, a lot of our athletes that are reporters or analysts, you'd be surprised how many people have gone through those clubs and know the impact that they have. So when you align it right and you really push hard for it, um, that's how you can create successful programming, is to get the full company support behind it.
Yeah. So, kind of as we wind down the podcast, where do you see the future of sports philanthropy heading? And what advice do you have for individuals that are currently in the space, other than increasing buy in and kind of getting more creative?
So that's a couple, two-part question. I think the future of, sports philanthropy, I think that it will be more and more driven by companies and brands and private individuals and, people's foundations versus like government funding. And I think that's the idea of people buying into impact as a whole. Like you can make a difference, and these brands, and come from a brand and company perspective, it's they're making these decisions to demonstrate a purpose beyond profit because of the consumers and their audience now, this next, like these younger generations, and people like expect more um from these companies, for example. So they don't they want you to be doing more than just like selling clothes or shoes or whatever. Like there's more that can be done. And so that general societal expectation to whether, and I can't explain why that's happening. Um, Global connectivity maybe. Um, and I think access to just like information, people want to be like doing more if they can, and they expect more from others. So I think that will continue to be a driving force in sports philanthropy, which is a good thing. Ultimately, you want everyone bought in for the community. And then also, I mean, a lot of effort is already focused on the community based sports programming versus the pay to play model, which is, a multi-billion dollar industry, right? With your travel leagues and whatnot. So the return to like the basics are going to be more important, and just getting making sure that people, regardless of their age or their gender or their race or their zip code or their physical or visual impairments, like that they can experience the benefits of sport and play at its just most basic level, because there's so much that we've talked about and I mentioned that come from that. Um, and I think the more that we see the pendulum shift towards a pay to play model, like what happens with the pendulum? It swings back, right? And so I think we have swung very far in one direction, but I think we're going to come back in a strong way and make sure that that is buoyed and leveraged, just as much as a pay to play model. So, second part of your question um, was about advice, right, to those
Yeah,
looking to start similar initiatives
yeah.
or.
People that want to get their hands dirty in this space.
All right, all right. So let's look at this through like a two-part. So let's say if they're not, right? So let's say they're not currently working in CSR for sports, right? They want to get into this space. They're just right now doing something else with their time. But so I think if you're like an individual and you're passionate about sports and their impact, whatever the cause that you are passionate about within sports, find a local nonprofit organization in your community or another organization, maybe it's a school that's like that aligns with the cause that interests you and that they're working to you know uh, resolve or alleviate or promote whatever it is. Align with them, start volunteering, start working there. And if you have an idea that they're not already doing, propose the idea, take ownership of it, and run with it. I can tell you, I work with I've worked with hundreds of nonprofits across the country, and so many of them, right, they're passionate people, but they need manpower, they need people to help do this work. And so if you come in with like a great idea and you want to take ownership of it, I think there's a lot of people that will be willing to let people do that. So therefore, as an individual, you can start doing that work, and that will allow you later on down the line to, pivot from, say, that organization to, to a Fox Sports or to, a for-profit company that is also like supporting that work. So you can touch both sides of the coin eventually. And then for those who like maybe individuals who like are just they're working in sports but not directly in philanthropy, um, but they want to be doing that, and I'd say like look at your own organization and like much like I did when I was working within Fox Sports, like start asking like what are we doing outside of our goal of raising, making a profit on whatever it is we're doing. What is our purpose? And if get more involved in it. If there is a program, great, like further their efforts, ask how you can help, join a committee, propose a committee. Or if no work is being done, then make your own opportunity. Like go to your senior leadership or talk about, like, think about what that company is, what the brand is, what the purpose should be, and propose that and run with it. Because, you can get involved and you can make your own opportunities if they don't already exist.
That's awesome, Mark. And I have to ask you this, if you could have a magic wand and you could solve any pressing issue in the sports communities today, what would it be and why?
I would wave my magic wand and have all of the coaches, facilitators, program operators, school like officials, PE coaches, high school coaches, whatever, be fully trained and comfortable with dealing with the mental aspect of sports and
Great answer.
how to talk with youth or athletes that are struggling with depression or anxiety or trauma, like have trauma informed coaching just installed in everybody so that they, I think the sports environment just creates such a unique opportunity to connect with people and to address some of these really pressing issues that people might be dealing with off the pitch, off the court, on the sidelines, whatever it is. But there's an opportunity where their walls are broken down, right? You're working together towards this common goal. Um, and you have a team, you have a support system, and those coaches, right? Those people who lead these efforts, the teams, the programming, they have such like a unique opportunity to connect with these people that they're working with and coaching or teaching or providing the programming for, where maybe these people don't like have that same support system in their home or at their school. They don't have a counselor or a therapist or whatever, a support system. So yeah, if I could wave the magic wand and make sure that like all the leaders in this space are properly trained and educated on how to, yeah, deal with issues surrounding mental well-being, I'd waive it.
That's awesome, Mark. And I mean, you've been an amazing guest. And as we're wrapping up here, is there anything else that we missed that you would love to add, that you would love to shed some light on? I mean, I think you have the coolest job ever, and I'm so happy for you that you get to work in this intersection of helping people, but doing it through a medium that you're really passionate about, that being sports. Do you ever step back and say like, wow, like I love this job? Obviously, there's like times where you have to say no and aspects of it that aren't ideal. But do you take a step back and you say like, wow, like this is such a cool job?
Yeah. And that is honestly like how well, not that it's not, I mean, I am very grateful. I'm very fortunate. I do love my job and I love the work. It's how I continue to motivate myself though, is thinking about like understanding the impact that this is having. And a lot of the times, right, like in this world on the corporate side of things, um, we work with our partners constantly, but I'm not on the ground at all times alongside the coaches, alongside the youth, that are benefiting from the trainings that we've implemented or the programming that we're providing. So, I try to remind myself like when I am able to get out there and involved and engaged again, it's like that's for me, it's kind of like a holy shit moment. Like we're working across the country and there are hundreds of thousands of people that have benefited from our work. And that makes me very grateful and that will keep me going forever.
No, that's awesome, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us. And the last thing that we do, so we do go to Texas A&M here, and we have something called Good Bull, which basically means like shout outs or someone you want to say good luck to.
Yeah, that's I love that. I would definitely shout out our CEO and executive producer Eric Shanks, who you know uh green lit the Fox Sports Supports program 17 years ago and has been an ardent supporter of our work and is very much believes in the power of sports for positive social change. So want to give him a shout out. And my boss, our EVP of communications at Fox Sports, Terry Hines, also a very big believer in the power of sports and supporter of our work. So, and the Fox Sports family writ large, I think, for everyone who has been supporting the efforts across the company, because there are many, and it runs wide and it runs deep. So we can't do the work, without everyone's help. So I'm very blessed to have a good team behind us.
Mark, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure. And you guys need to, create that, get like a proof of your relatedness because
We
tell
need to
actually
run a
tell people that we're cousins. Like get your birth certificates lined up, whatever. You guys are doing great work and thank you for having me on the pod.
no, thank you, Mark. We'll definitely reach out to 23 and Me and see if we can get something going. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll sponsor part of it.
Love that.